We are born into this world being absolutely clueless. When we are babies, we are confused, lost, hungry, and vulnerable. I guess that's one of the reasons why we tend to cry so often and keep our parents awake in the middle of the night to teach them why life is so tough for us. Anyway, as I grew older, I thought these feelings would be removed and life would get easier. Well, I don't know about you, but I thought I was going to be able to figure out the meaning of my life, what I was born into this world for, by the time I finished university, because that's what being an adult meant to me for a long time. However, I must admit to you that at the age of 24, I'm still winging almost everything that I do on a daily basis, and the cluelessness has remained the same since I first became conscious of my thoughts. As we go through life, we try to eliminate the feelings of vulnerability by acquiring higher status, wealth, fame, developing power, and so on. But we feel like we never have enough of it, and we always find many issues in our day-to-day lives, no matter how wealthy or powerful we become. I guess we persistently hope that we'll find some ultimate happiness and security outside of us by controlling enough life aspects to free ourselves from our emptiness, vulnerability, and confusion. This vision of hope for the future and the constant pursuit of happiness outside of us might seem reasonable, but perhaps this is what makes us suffer constantly and unhappy. This is where the ancient philosophy, Stoicism, could be an interesting key element that gives new perspectives to look at our life and teach us how to deal with our seemingly insatiable hunger for ultimate control and happiness outside ourselves. Stoicism was a philosophy that flourished for 480 years in ancient Greece and Rome. Although it is over 2,000 years old, it is perceived as remarkably applicable to our modern lives. It is known that many political, artistic, and intellectual leaders like George Washington and Nelson Mandela applied Stoicism into their lives. It's a philosophy of life that maximizes positive emotions, reduces negative emotions, and helps individuals to form their character. Stoicism was deliberately created to be understandable, actionable, and useful. It reminds people what is truly important, providing practical strategies to get more of what is valuable in our lives. When one of my subscribers told me about Stoicism, and I started collecting information about it, it resonated with me as the principles were really similar to the ones I used to overcome some of my challenging obstacles in life. So in this video, I'm going to discuss some Stoicism principles that I apply to my life. Number 1. Identify what we can control and what we cannot control. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can see clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself to the choices that are my own. Stoicism acknowledges that we don't have control over all, or even much, of what happens in life. And it emphasizes that worrying about things outside of our control is unproductive or even irrational to people who want to attain peacefulness and calmness. A simple example that I can think of is about being confident. If I think that I can be confident if I'm taller than 180 centimeters, then I'm simply screwed for the rest of my life. I'm 173 centimeters and I know that I'm not gonna be any taller than what I am now. In fact, I'll get shorter when I get older. I understand that height can be big insecurity for some people, but I identify height as something that I cannot control. It's just something that I cannot change, no matter how much I hope to be taller. So focusing on becoming tall or feeling bitter about my height will never make me happy because this is out of my control. Instead, I need to think about what I can control, such as educating myself by reading and becoming healthy by exercising and eating well. What Stoicism reminds us daily is to actively differentiate between what is and is not under control in order not to waste energy over uncontrollable things. Where many people worry endlessly about things out of their control, the Stoics think their energy is better spent thinking of creative solutions to problems rather than the issues themselves. Number 2, stop complaining about what we don't have and start appreciating what we already have in life. No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have. Living as a Stoic does not mean you must live without material things. In fact, Stoicism teaches us that material goods create our happiness and ability to live comfortably to some extent. However, Stoics are hyper-aware of the influence of consumerism over their decision-making. Because people are born hungry, many individuals spend a significant portion of their days being upset about not having a more beautiful car or a big home, even though they have excellent health and more possessions than others. That's where Stoicism comes in and teaches us to consciously try not to suffer over what we lack. Instead, it guides us to be aware and feel grateful for what we already have in life, instead of always wanting more. This exercise reminds the Stoics to appreciate what we have while we have it. In other words, Stoic philosophy can help us appreciate good things like health and well-being while we have them. Number 3, we choose the meaning of what happens to us. External things are not the problem, it's your assessment of them, which you can erase right now. It's not about what happens to us, it's about what we do with it. Our ideas of how things should be cause anxiety, fear, contempt, and every negative feeling. Reality is not going to change for us, but we can change our expectations as we explore this life. From my experience when I was 15, I was so confident that my English was good enough to communicate with people in New Zealand before studying abroad there, because I was studying English as hard as possible in school in Japan. However, the reality was completely different, and I was super disappointed that almost no one could understand what I was saying on my first day at school in New Zealand. The fact that I thought my English was amazing and would have no trouble speaking to locals created a false expectation of how things should be in my head, and thus I felt disappointed with the situation. But I dealt with the situation by thinking, oh well, the reality is that my English isn't good enough at the moment. But feeling sorry for myself and the level of my English won't do any good to me. What I can do now is to learn English and speak English whenever possible to make the situation better. It took me many years, but eventually I started to be able to talk to people in English confidently and express myself the same way when I speak Japanese, which is my native language. And I know that it's because I accepted the reality of not being good enough when I came to New Zealand, and I started focusing on what I could do to improve the situation better for me every day instead of feeling sorry and crying for what happened to me. Remember, it's not the event itself that makes one upset, but one's thoughts about it. We don't have control over what happens to us, but we have the power of how we perceive the situation and what we do about it. That's the end of the video today. I hope you guys enjoyed this topic. If you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up, because when you hit the like button, the YouTube algorithm helps my channel grow and reach people who are interested in the topics that I discuss on my channel. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please consider subscribing, and I'll keep striving to create videos that are worth your time. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!